Not every project at A. Rene has been major. Here we will give a brief description of some of the smaller ones. As A. Rene grew and became more varied, we found it convenient to add small sheds and buildings that made daily life as well as opening and closing easier. Sometimes things such as roofs wear out and have to be replaced. In the middle picture you can see the start of what became our tool shed. It's on the back of the woodshed, which was a very early addition to camp. Our recycling bins and propane tanks and larger tools live in this shed. The original water pump at A. Rene was a hand pump, which is now a garden decoration. We ran a 1-inch galvanized pipe down to the lake. It had to be detached and removed at the end of every season. It served well as a source of water for the main cabin, but nothing else. A couple of gasoline-powered pumps served for many years, but with 3 cabins needing water, we decided to go solar. We built a pump house that was much bigger than needed for the sun-powered pump and associated collector panel. That meant some lumber from town. The picture shows Big Boat with some of those boards. That was back in the days when they still let trucks onto the Matheson Street dock. The bottom picture shows the pump house going up. The right side sits on the cement piers that hold the floating dock in place. The left side is on treated 4x4s which go down a couple of feet. Unfortunately, there is lake water down that far which tends to heave and the left side a bit. So far it only causes a little lopsidedness. One cannot say an addition is complete until it has a window box for flowers. Here I'm installing one that runs almost the full length of the pump house. As the number of people enjoying A. Rene increased, it became apparent that the outhouse, constructed in 1952, would not serve. We now have 2 additional outhouses. The pictures show construction of the one for Ann and Dave's cabin. I had my good crew again, particularly for digging and measuring the depth of the required hole. We made sure that the hammock was far enough away as not to be tempting this time, although the crew's skills had advanced to the point where actual construction was possible. The lumber came, I think, completely from the old boathouse. Over the years, my crews grew up a bit and got smart enough to invite their own help. I will leave it to you to see if you can recognize any of those involved in the construction of the outhouse designed to serve the guest house. Needless to say, the hammock was placed still farther away from this site. To make life easier for the crew, we used every bit of extension cord available, so power was available to the site. We were out of old lumber, but a couple of sheets of plywood siding and a few 2x4s did the trick. Specialization, of course, is the byword of modern construction. The painting crew was entirely different than the carpenters. Here I am consulting with the crew chief. Installing hooks and latches to ensure that everyone is comfortable using the house is an important part of the job. We found out later that the outside latch could close inadvertently, trapping the occupant inside. Not to worry, a somewhat embarrassed holler can bring immediate help. Just before we left for 2 years in England, we put a new layer of shingles on our roof. I had a crew for this one also. The main cabin has been re-roofed a couple of times. One of the biggest problems is how to dispose of the old shingles that have come off. The weight of these adds up. On one memorable trip down the hill with a garden cart full of shingles, the cart got a mind of its own and started chasing the operator down the hill towards the lake. The operator's early childhood ballet lessons came in handy, and she executed a grand geste far out into the lake ahead of the raging cart. The cart tried its best, but was only able to manage a few feet into the lake. Once the old roofing was off, the installation crew took over. Most of the crew had previous roofing experience except the furry one. We were able to work from ladders and could get a good foothold on the roof. All the old valleys and flashing was in good shape, so we used that. We had assigned the furry one to ground duty, but he did not agree with that and started up the ladder, actually getting more than halfway up before his mistress grounded him. Hence ends a good sampling of the many small projects that we have undertaken over the 60+ years at A. Rene.